Hi everyone, it's Stacy's story. The video I have for you today is for our comprehension-focused strategy presentation, and the activity that I'm going to be covering is word flowers and word bugs. Now I think this is a really fun, simple activity that can be done in the classroom, and it's great because it's going to be expanding the children's knowledge of their vocabulary words, and you're using graphic organizers to do so. Now the content area that I'm going to be covering is math, and I'm using it in an 8th grade classroom. And the SOLs that are covered are 8.4, and that's covering, of course, English and our reading strand. And the SOL says the student will apply knowledge of word origins, analogies, and figurative language to extend vocabulary development with authentic text. It covers C and D under that, and C says use roots, affixes, cognates, synonyms, and antonyms to determine the meaning of unfamiliar words and technical vocabulary. And D says use dictionaries, thesauruses, and glossaries to determine definition, pronunciation, spelling, and usage of words. And again, the content area I'm covering is math, so under 8.17 math for 8th grade, it says the student will identify the domain, range, independent variable, or dependent variable in a given situation. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you the materials that we're going to need to implement this activity in the classroom. So it's really simple. We've got a word bug. So it's just a little drawing of a bug that I've pre-made before going over the activity in the classroom, or a word flower. And so of course there are two separate ones. You can decide which one you want to do in the classroom, whether you want to do a bug that day or whether you want to do a flower. You can switch it up, and they're going to be displayed in the classroom. But for this activity I've chosen to do a word bug, and again we're covering math, and so this is a pre-made one I've already filled out to show. But how the activity would actually be done in the classroom is you could, of course, if you wanted to, have the children draw the bug out themselves. Or you could go ahead and have it pre-made, drawn out on the sheet of paper, have all the copies run off and pass them out to the students. But you want to, of course, once that's done and you're ready to begin, you always want to model the activity first to the students so they see what you're going to actually be completing. So, of course, I have a model here that's made that could be shown to the students. And this one is on independent variable. So under our math SOL, we're going to be covering independent variable, dependent variable, domain, and range. Those are things they're going to have to identify. But in order for them to identify them, they do have to understand what the words mean. So again, I'm just going to hold this back up and show you. On here, I also labeled it. And so the head of the bug has the word, the body has the definition, the legs are covering it being used in context, the synonyms, the antonyms. And at the top, you could put up there the origin. But for math, I thought it would be just a little bit hard with some of these words. So I kind of changed it up a bit, and I feel like you could tailor this activity, to your classroom and what you're covering in there. So what I did was the word, I've got independent variable, the definition in the middle. At the top, instead of the origin, what I actually did was I wanted them to be able to locate their bugs easily. So I want them to list, the pages that they found this. So what chapter are they covering, and what page can they easily go to and find independent variable. I did do the synonyms and the antonyms. I feel like the antonym, of course, was big because it's saying the antonym to this is dependent variable, which is another vocabulary word for them. And then instead of actually writing a sentence out for in context, I kind of did in context using an example. So I listed an example down there where they had to write one out and then state what was the independent variable. And then, of course, we do this at the beginning of the lesson, and then we move into teaching that math lesson. But again, it's very important in math as well, just because they do have to understand those vocabulary words in order to read the math problems and be able to complete them and read their math textbooks as well. But that was just a pre-made, word bug. You could do the same thing for word flower. And then once they're all completed, you could give the students a little bit of time to decorate them. They could color them, draw wings, whatever you'd like to be done with it, and then display them in the classroom. So it gives the students a nice visual so they could easily learn or just reflect back on. But of course, again, you could put it in the classroom, have them take it home, have a collection of them. So for that particular lesson, if they're going to have to do dependent, independent variable, domain, and range, just have the whole bug family and just have it displayed in the classroom the whole time that you're going to be covering that particular lesson. But this is something that I think for this math lesson would be done, prior to introducing what they're actually going to be learning that day. So I would just allow about 15 or 20 minutes for the students to go in Explain the word, give them time to look it up in the glossaries, in their textbooks, label the page, maybe a few minutes longer if you want them to have, some extra time to color and go over it. But I do think that would be ample time to get the lesson started with it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this is something you would use in your classroom.